Hey guys! Since we talked all about pumpkins and how they grow, the life cycle of a pumpkin, why pumpkins are orange, all about pumpkins, we are going to carve this pumpkin today. I'm so excited. But we're going to do something really cool at the very end that I think you're going to find just really neat. So, what I have here, I have my pumpkin. I have a plate that I'm going to put my seeds and some of the guts that are inside the pumpkin. We're going to put them right here on my plate. And I have my knife that I'm going to use to cut the pumpkin open. Remember, you do not use knives unless an adult helps you. So if you have a pumpkin to carve, do not carve it on your own. Make sure you have an adult. So before I get started, let's talk about this pumpkin. I'm going to sit up a little bit. All right, yesterday you watched a video that told you all about some of the parts of the pumpkin. Now up here we have the stem, and it's kind of twisted. I know it's hard for you to see, but it's kind of twisted right here, and it looks like someone just pulled it right off. Remember that pumpkins grow on pumpkin vines, those twisty, curly vines. So when the farmer thinks that this pumpkin is ready, so it's round, it is orange, it's ready to be picked, he will go out and he'll snap that pumpkin right off the vine. And now if I turn my pumpkin this way, do you see how it's a different color right here? It looks a little weird. It's actually kind of bumpy. It feels like it has bumps all over it. And it's flat right here. And if I turn it to the side, you might can see that a little bit better if I put my hand up here. It's flat, whereas the other side is it's curved and it's round. So the reason that it's a different color and the reason that it's flat right here is because this is where the pumpkin was lying on the ground. So before the farmer came to harvest the pumpkin, it was laying on this side, and as it grew, it got flat right here because it was pressing on the ground. So if I lay it like this, you can tell this is how the pumpkin grew. So the vine came out here, and then it was picked. Now on this end, it almost looks like a little belly button right there. Here's the bottom of it. And once the flower falls off the end, you know that little yellow flower we get, once that little flower falls off, that's when we know the pumpkin is ready too. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the top of our pumpkin off. So where that stem is, it's going to look like a little hat. And then we're going to look at the inside. So I'm going to pause my video and I'm going to cut the top off. And then when I come back, we'll look at the inside. All right, so I used my sharp knife to cut around the top of my pumpkin. And you remember, pumpkins have really thick shells because this is a shell. It's really thick. It's kind of soft, but it's hard to get through. So you have to use lots of muscle when you go through it. All right, are you ready for the big reveal? All right, I'm gonna take the top off. Oh, wow. Check this out, guys. As you can see, there's lots of little strands. It almost looks like strings. What do you see on the inside of the pumpkin? Lots of seeds. These are pumpkin seeds. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be scooping some of these out, the seeds and some of the stringy, sticky stuff. And that's why I have my plate. I'm going to collect some on my plate. And then we're going to do something really cool and special with the rest of our pumpkin. So, as I'm taking these seeds off, I'll set this down. The seeds, they're very sticky and wet. It's very damp. Remember that word damp? It's very damp on the inside of a pumpkin. And pumpkins, you learned yesterday, are also a fruit. You know, fruits, they have their seeds on the inside, just like this pumpkin. And like I told you yesterday, squash, that's something we eat a lot of at my house. Squash is also part of the pumpkin family. Take a look at that shell, or I call it like the meat of the pumpkin. I know some people call it the flesh of the pumpkin, but this right here, look how thick that shell is. You have to really get through that shell to cut it. And this is the part that people use to cook with, like your not sweet potato, your pumpkin pies and pumpkin bread. And remember in our story on our live meeting yesterday, we talked about pumpkin soup. There's all kinds of stuff people use pumpkins for. People also eat the seeds. Did you know that you could take these seeds and you could put salt and pepper on them? Or some people, this is my favorite, you can dry them off. So you would rinse them in the sink of cold water, and then you would lay them flat, so just in one layer, so they're not on top of each other. Lay them on a paper towel just to let them dry, because you don't want them to be wet going in the oven. And then you can get some cinnamon and some sugar, and you could sprinkle it on top and roast them in the oven for a few minutes. And they are so good. So, well, and I know a lot of people think, oh, that's weird to eat pumpkin seeds. But, you know, some people, they eat sunflower seeds. You can eat seeds. I would not eat them raw, you know, straight out of the pumpkin. But you could totally roast them in the oven. And people put all kinds of flavors on them. Like I said, the cinnamon, the sugar, salt if you wanted them sweet, or if you wanted salty. All right, so I've collected most of the seeds off of the top of our pumpkin. And here's our seeds. Now they still have that ooey gooey stickiness on them. So what I'll do is I'll just have to rinse them later. So I need to take my rings off for this part. And I'm gonna let you guys see this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna reach my hand in and I'm going to get these pumpkin guts out. I might want to take my bracelets off too, just in case. Have any of you ever put your hand inside of a pumpkin before? It's usually cold and damp, sticky, slimy. All right, here we go. So now I'm on the side of the pumpkin. Look at all of the seeds I'm pulling out. Now pumpkins are not solid on the inside. I'm gonna hold this up for you. Get it stuck. Pumpkins are hollow. Can you see inside there? They're hollow, but you can see all those seeds. And you know, one of those grows a pumpkin. So think about all the pumpkins you could grow from all of those seeds. That's a lot. So I'm gonna finish scraping out most of them. I'm not gonna scrape out all of these seeds because of what we're gonna do at the end. So here's some more seeds. Here's some of the gooey mess. I really just want to get the ones off the sides. I'm going to leave most of them in the bottom. How many of you have ever carved a pumpkin? Like to look like a jack-o'-lantern with the eyes, the nose, the mouth. And now you can go to the store like Dollar General, or you could go to Walmart and you can buy a stencil, which is kind of like you tracing a design on the outside of your pumpkin. And you can do really cool designs on the outside of your pumpkin. But before you do all of that carving, you know, you have to get all of this stuff out of the pumpkin. Good grief, there's so many. Look at my plate. It is really piling up. You think maybe I should save some of those to eat? Maybe. It's a pretty healthy snack. Now, I've gotten most of them off the sides. I don't want to get the ones as many on the bottom. This stuff is really stuck in there. This is actually really fun. And if you guys go to Harvey's here in Fitzgerald, or if you go to Walmart and you go to the produce section where they have all of the fruits and vegetables, maybe an adult that you live with could get you a pumpkin. They have small pumpkins for around $2. And they have bigger ones, like this one's not huge, it's kind of medium size, and it was only $4. So they're not expensive. Check this out. This is a really long piece. That is so cool. Oh, it's getting all in my fingernails. I'm gonna really have to wash my hands after this. There we go. But just remember, never carve the pumpkin with a sharp knife by yourself. You want to be sure that you have an adult around that can help you carve it. All right, so I've pretty much gotten what I want out. Now there's still some on the sides, but what I did was I left seeds at the bottom for the next part of our little project. And give me 1 second. I'm gonna wash my hands. Okay, I got my hands cleaned up. That was a messy, messy pumpkin. All right, so the next part that we're going to do, I left some seeds in the bottom. And in order for me to grow a pumpkin, because that's what we're gonna try to do, we're gonna grow some pumpkins, I need a few things. What do plants need to grow? Because ultimately, that's what this is. It's part of it's a plant. So what do plants need to grow? They need soil, sunlight, water, and room to grow. They need space. So here is the coolest thing ever. We are going to sort of plant the rest of these seeds. Now, instead of planting them directly into the soil outside in the ground, we're gonna leave the seeds in the pumpkin, and we're gonna put the soil inside the pumpkin, and the seeds are going to grow right inside here. See, the coolest part about this is the pumpkin, so the flesh or that rind I was telling you about right here, the meat of that pumpkin is full of vitamins and nutrients that the plant needs or that those seeds need. So as the pumpkin rots, because you know after several weeks, plants, food, vegetables, fruit, they rot when they're outside. And if you remember in our story, Pumpkin Circle, at the end of the book, it talks about how it starts as a seed, and then they've made the jack-o'-lantern, and when you leave the jack-o'-lantern over time, remember it got squished and it started to rot and it turns back into dirt, and all you're left with are the seeds, and those seeds turn into more plants, more pumpkin plants. So that's essentially what we're gonna be doing. We're gonna put that soil right inside this hole, inside the pumpkin. Those seeds are already down inside the pumpkin. And over the next few days and over the next few weeks, we're going to check on our pumpkin to see if we have some pumpkin plants growing inside of the pumpkin. How awesome is that? And if we leave them long enough, we may even get to see a vine. But what I'm gonna do is I've got a cup of water, because you know that soil is gonna need some water and those seeds are gonna need some water. And I've got a bag of potting soil. And this potting soil, it also has some of the minerals and nutrients that these seeds are gonna need for the first few weeks. And it looks like this, and you've probably seen it before. Well, I can grab it. These little, I cannot get it, guys. There we go. These little white things that you can see in potting soil, those are just like vitamins and nutrients and minerals that the seed needs. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna scoop the soil with this other cup, and I'm gonna dump it straight inside here on top of these seeds. So it's like we're planting the seeds. And you could do this at home too. So I didn't need to use a plastic, like a flower pot. It's like the pumpkin itself is the flower pot. Gonna make sure it's flat inside there. And I'm gonna stop halfway through and just drizzle some water because this dirt, this soil is pretty dry. And just gonna make sure that we water a little bit. And you can get potting soil like this, again, at Dollar General, Walmart, and they're usually about $1 for a small bag. You don't need an entire bag. You would just need a small bag. And we're not gonna fill the pumpkin up, but it's gonna be a little over halfway filling the pumpkin up. Almost. Put a little bit more water. Because you know those seeds, that's what they need. I'm gonna do maybe one or two more scoops. There we go, we'll spread it out. I'll do one more. I think we can do one more. Now I'm not gonna leave my pumpkin inside the classroom. Why will I not leave it inside the classroom? Because plants need sunlight and I cannot give it sunlight in here. I have lights in here, but it's not natural sunlight. You know, the sprouts, when they first come up and those leaves, they're gonna need chlorophyll and they're gonna need to produce chlorophyll. And that is only something that they can get from the sun. So that's why we're gonna set this outside, and over the next few weeks, maybe even after we come back from fall break, hopefully we'll have some little sprouts. So before I let you guys go and I go set this outside, we need to talk about the pumpkin life cycle. So what does the pumpkin start out as? A little tiny seed. Starts as a little tiny seed, and then after a few weeks of sunlight, water, nutrients from the soil, what comes up out of the ground? A little tiny sprout, and it's usually got two little leaves on the side, and it's starting to form roots at the bottom to help anchor it in that soil. And then after it grows for a little bit, what comes up on the beside the leaves? What comes up there by the leaves? A beautiful yellow flower, that golden yellow flower. And I told you that some people actually pick those flowers and they fry them and eat them. And I've heard of people eating squash blossoms, but I've never had pumpkin blossoms, but people eat those. So after we have the seed, the sprout, then the flower, and then after the flower, there comes like a little bud. Remember the little bud? Looks like a tiny little pumpkin. And then first we have a green pumpkin, and then comes the orange pumpkin. But I have something really cool to tell you guys. Did you know that pumpkins are not all orange? And you may have seen pumpkins of different colors. Not all pumpkins are orange. You can buy white pumpkins. You can also get blue pumpkins. I think the blue pumpkins are the coolest. You can also get pumpkins that are different colors, like yellow and orange. Some are blue and orange. You can get them like that. They're different varieties. There's one of our vocabulary words. It's a different variety of pumpkin. This is, I'm not sure what kind of pumpkin this is, but I need to look that up, what kind of pumpkin this is. There are so many different varieties of pumpkins. And they're not always smooth. Like this one is kind of smooth, except on that one little rough spot on the back where it grew on the ground. You can get pumpkins that are bumpy, and they look really neat. They're super bumpy and hard. So when you're out exploring, if you go to a pumpkin patch, or if you go to the grocery store or to Walmart today or this weekend and get you a pumpkin, I would love to see you carving it. Or I would love to see you doing what we did. And I'm gonna try to let you see inside the pumpkin. There's the soil. So what I need to do now is I'm gonna stick this outside of our door, maybe sprinkle a little bit more water on it, and we'll see what happens. Thanks for joining me, guys.